Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Yes, good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to Money Radio on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ubeba, and with me in the studio is Inse Upo. Inse, it's a pleasure to have you on today's program. She is the group business editor of Leadership newspaper. We are going to be focusing on sustaining federal government's mentoring plan to end arbitrary billing. That is our focus on today's energy focus. And it's on our prep, we have out of 10.81 million total electricity consumers in second quarter of 2022, 5.85 million of these consumers are still outside the mentoring net, thereby being subjected to arbitrary billing by the distribution companies. Stakeholders have insisted that there is need to leverage the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria to bridge the existing electricity metering gap in the country. Of course, that was the conversation I was having with Inse just behind the scene before we came on air and talking about this deficit in metering in Nigerian homes. So what is happening, Inse?
We've been on Nigeria and the regulators, the power sector regulators, have been on this metering issue for a long time. Over the years, we have seen so many metering programs being brought up either by the electricity sector regulators, or even lately, we have seen the Central Bank of Nigeria working with the World Bank to come in, all in the bid to ensure that Nigerian homes are metered. You brought up a figure in the prep there that says up to 10.4 million Nigerians. Yes. But if we want to look at the number of households, Nigeria has estimated 40 million households. And then the National Bureau of Statistics is coming out to say just about 10 million of this household. There are 10 million electricity customers. So what happens to
the other
close to 30 million households? Is it that they don't enjoy electricity? Is it that they enjoy electricity but they are not captured? So all these are questions that are out there, and there's been lots of complaint about the industry not being able to realize the cost of electricity that is put out there. That's on one hand. On the side of
the discos,
on the side of the distribution, the operators, and on the side of consumers, there are so many outcry there that they are paying for what they are not consuming. A lot of the electricity consumers having to bear the brunt for electricity that everyone consumes. So there is a need to balance this inequality on both sides to ensure that the system is able to function effectively.
Now, what is really actually happening? Because over time we've heard government making policies, making declarations that meter is going to be provided for each home, and at the end of the day, we are talking about 2022, and just 3 months time we'll be moving over to 2023, and this is still unrealizable. What is the gap? Where lies the gap? Is it that the federal government is not working its talk? What happens to the distribution companies, discos?
In 2020, when the federal government came out with the metering program that is on ground now, the national mass metering program, it was like, we will get this right now, because the central bank was like, okay, it's free, and everyone. It was the plan was that by the end of 2023, 6 million customers would have been metered.
Okay.
And then it was broken down into phases. The first one, which they referred to as the phase 0, was supposed to have 1 million customers metered. And that was as at, for the year 2000. Okay, let's say COVID came in and a lot of things were stalled. What happened in 2021 when things began to normalize, and 2022, we are already stepping into the last quarter of the year. Yet we've not had the first phase was wrapped up. They didn't achieve up to the 1 million that was made. So the entire program that was supposed to last for 3 years, having 6 million electricity consumers metered, this is almost into the last year of that program, and less than 1 million Nigerians are yet to be metered. And according to the Central Bank of Nigeria, as much as 47 billion naira has already been expended. And as we speak, the second phase that was supposed to bring in 4 million consumers metered is still on hold, is being stalled. So one begins to wonder, what happens? We have had the mass meter asset providers program, whereby you pay. The consumers should pay for it. And then it still did not work. Nigerians were not being metered. Then the central bank came in with a free metering program. Still, that didn't work. And it makes me begin to wonder what is actually happening.
Yes, that is where I'm leading to. Do you think that maybe these distribution companies, they are exploiting the scenario of this arbitrary billing to their own gains?
That has always been, because and the distribution companies, they are actually the culprits, because they are the link between the consumers and the other operators. The generating companies, they generate power, they transmit it, they send it to the national grid. Then the national grid, now from there it is distributed to distributors. And then it is now the responsibility of these distribution companies to distribute it to electricity consumers, collect the bills, remit it to the bulk trader, who now remits it to the generation companies, so that they can pay for the components, pay for gas, pay for other things that are needed, maintain their machineries, and then keep on generating. So what I'm saying now, so the responsibility is on them to sell this product, which is electricity, bring out the money and pay for what has been supplied. But they have always failed to pay. They keep insisting that they don't collect enough from the consumers for them to pay. There is always a shortfall in payment from these distribution companies. So if we want to look at it, for Nigerians to be metered, adequately metered, it will benefit the discos. Because it means that whatever is given to them, they will be able to give it out, and they will ensure they will be able to collect their monies. Because good thing, we're using these meters are actually prepaid. So it means that once the meters are installed in the homes, nobody can use electricity except they have paid for it. So it's to their benefit. What that means is that they will be able to have gotten money. They are paid up front by the consumers before they have this electricity, which they now use. So whether at the end of the day, whether the consumer uses it, whether there's supply or not, for the consumers to use it, they would have already been paid upfront. So that makes it easy. So, but when we are seeing a situation where they are they are supposed to meter these people and they don't meter, and they are not remitting enough money, it makes one begins to wonder where the problem lies.
Could it be maybe dearth of manpower? These distribution companies we are talking about, do they have adequate manpower to be able to do all this work?
Well, when the issue of the mass metering, the national mass metering came up, the idea there was that to reduce the level of importation, because Nigerians, in order to support local content, Nigerians companies, Nigerian manufacturers were actually brought in to ensure that they get the needed raw material components and produce these meters within the country, and then they are installed. And they also brought that the issue of inadequate manpower. They brought it up, but of course, that was since 2000. And we've had 2 years. Right now, even the meter producers, they're actually complaining that they have meters on ground. Yet,
They are not doing
yet, Nigerians don't have it. So it begins to
and for those, there are so many Nigerians that have also complained that haven't applied for this meter for a long while, they are still yet to be supplied. That is also an issue.
The issue, honestly, when you want to when you want to start looking at, and the distribution companies, on the other hand, they tell you they have meters. I think the regulators need to come into this issue to begin to find out really what is happening, to begin to liaise with consumers. Some of the manufacturers, they are now like, okay, we've gotten loans to procure the raw materials for these meters, and they are not being bought off us.
Do you see that maybe there's lack of political will? Because time and time again, we've seen the successive presidents of Nigeria, federal government of Nigeria, make pronouncement, make policy about this metering, and nobody's taking it up, and no head is rolling by it.
That is something that is worth looking at. But you will not tell me, the government of the day, they can make pronouncements.
Yes.
But implementation of these policies is not really within their own, is not under their purview. The president can come up, and of course, the national mass metering program that we've seen was as a result of the pronouncement of the president. And of course, the go-ahead was given. The central bank was even drafted in, and then working with the World Bank to make access to the funding that is required easy. And all of this were brought on board. That was from the government of the day. Then now, pronouncements were made. The implementation of that policy pronouncement lies with the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, who is the regulatory agency for the power and Nigerian electricity supply industry, the entire value chain. They regulate the distribution companies. The transmission companies is still under their purview, even though it's 100% owned by government. And then, as well as the distribution companies. So, if anything has failed in ensuring that this policy comes to is successfully run the way it was meant to be, then all the the agency that should be held responsible
regulatory
is the regulatory agency. What have they been doing? How have they been ensuring that the parties, the different parties in the value chain, electricity value chain, play their own roles? Or where metering is involved, the distribution companies, how have you been ensuring that they are actually metering? Or those consumers have been complaining they do not see, they don't get the meters even after applying for a very long time. What have they come in what way have they come in to ensure that these issues are really resolved?
No, don't you think that among other things, the generating companies and the distributing, they complain of paucity of fund. Now, if, for example, out of 10.81 million total electricity consumers, and it's only 5.85 million, and 5.85 million, sorry, are still outside the metering net, you can see the difference now in this number.
Yes.
Is that not also a loss to them?
It's a huge loss. Like I said earlier, there is always shortfall in the revenue. And all this goes down to the inability of the distribution companies to get the customers to pay. And we have also seen where statistics say Nigeria has up to 40 million households. And here, the National Bureau of Statistics is coming out to say there are 10.8 million electricity customers.
Yes.
So, what that means is that I know that there are many rural communities that have not come under the electricity, that don't have electricity. But with the level of urbanization that is going on within many Nigerian cities, you wouldn't say that it gets to the point where close to over 70% of Nigerians' households don't have electricity. It means there's something that is not working out. That there is an imbalance that is clearly evident. Looking at those data, we have 40 million households, and then we have
just about
10.8 million customers. What happens to about 30 million households?
That means they are not captured.
That means they are not captured. And that means that these ones are enjoying, those among these households that have electricity, they actually do not even pay for it.
Yes. So that is where we are coming to. Well, viewers, we are going on a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. In case you're just tuning in, this is Energy Focus on Money Radio, reaching you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Webo, and with me in the studio is a group business editor, leadership newspaper, Inse. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Yes, we're talking about energy metering. And before we went on a break, we're talking about some homes now that are not captured in
Yes.
metering for electricity metering.
Metering them.
And here we have Gencos, that is generating companies and distribution companies complaining of phones. So what is happening? That means there are so many homes that are not paying for electricity.
That's if we want to looking at the data we have, it is evident that so many communities, some of these, even the distribution companies, they've also complained that there are some areas where they cannot go in to assess whether they enjoy electricity.
I know
or
some
not.
people, yes, personally, that say that they're not paying NEPA bills.
Yes,
NEPA, they just have light.
they just have
And it's
light.
even constant.
Of course, it's even constant. Can you
Because of
imagine?
concern.
Yes,
People say I was
and
going to write on somebody that how can you be enjoying light, just stable light, and you're not paying for it?
so that's where what we're seeing. A lot of households, they are enjoying. They're not even on estimated billing, and they are not paying for this service. And it becomes difficult where you say you want to go to those places and change and bring about a change. But of course, it is those people who have meters that have been forced to bear the brunt, because there have been widespread complaints
Yes.
from
So when we
other
talk to-
yes, there have
talk
been
about it.
widespread complaints. Some people, they are like, oh, I don't even have much in the house,
yes, we
and
pay so
yet
much.
they pay so much. There are some that are just put on certain amounts. Some have even said they are put on up to 50,000
Yes.
every month. And the distribution companies don't even come to see, what do they have to warrant this. Like, I was having a discussion with some of them, and they're like, oh, we are giving an amount that we have to pay.
That is arbitrary billing.
Yes, we are giving, I mean, the distribution companies.
Okay.
They have obligation
to pay certain amounts.
to remit certain amounts for electricity supplied to them on a monthly basis. And then, in order for them to meet this amount that has been allocated to them, they just have different areas and say, okay, we are going to make so percentage of this from this area. We'll make so percentage of this from this area. So they'll just distribute it among their franchise areas, and then begin to estimate, further break it down for these households. So whether they've had light, electricity supply or not, the bills are brought, and it's so high. And there's been this widespread complaints. And it's like, when they go, sometimes they come up to say, oh, to look at it once, and after it's been done and they go back, the following month they even bring a higher bill for them.
Yes, that is what happens. And what it means is that we now have a arbitrary billing, just like we are saying. There are some areas you pay more higher tariff than others, but at the end of the day, because they are not doing a comprehensive meter billing, so they have to exhaust these areas, tax them so much that is becoming unbearable. Many people are complaining that they are paying so much for electricity. Meanwhile, just like what we said, there are some households that are not captured in that billing. So these ones are now made to carry the full burden.
Of course, that's what we have been seeing, and even at that, they are still not able, according to them, they are still not able to make up what is to make up the amount for the energy that has been supplied to them.
Yes.
So before the Central Bank of Nigeria even stepped in to escrow their accounts, escrow meaning that money goes in, but what goes in is not being allocated. They are not the ones managing it.
Yes.
The Central Bank comes in to say, okay, this certain percentage should go to payment for go to the distribution companies. This certain percentage should to the generation companies. Then this other percentage should go to settling the debts, that the loans that you have collected from banks, from other sources, even from the central bank itself, to maintain your operations. So before the central bank came in to do that, escrow the account and take it over and allocate the resources that comes in there, these distribution companies, they were not even remitting anything. They will not remit to, they will not pay their bills, their loans. They will not service their loans. They will not remit to the generation companies. And they were not putting infrastructure on ground. And that's why we have seen a number of them. As we speak, out of the 11 distribution companies that the former PHCN was broken down into, as we speak, 5 of these have been taken over.
Yes.
Back by government or some of the bankers who loaned them money initially for them to make this privatization. So that begins to, that also calls to question the entire privatization process, which was supposed to bring sanity into the system, but for over 9 years since that process, Nigeria is still even worse off than it was before the privatization exercise.
Now we are running out of time, but before we go, for those some of our viewers, what can they do to get meter? What are the processes?
All the distribution companies tell you they have meters, and
The meter is not a problem.
that meter is not a problem. I think it should now go beyond depending on the distribution companies to get your meters. I want to advocate that where they have gone to the distribution companies and they have paid for their meters and they are not being given, they should report to the regulatory agencies.
Okay, sorry, we have a comment coming in from Truxisi Boy. It says, Nigeria's mentoring and estimated billings. Federal government's urgent action is imperative. Energy professionals must put in coordinated efforts to support energy consumers, of which they are also part of, even though it warrants instituting legal proceedings against suppliers and regulators as according.
Yes, I think, of course, it's getting to the point where legal actions need to be taken, because Nigerians, of course, energy is very, very important for businesses, for whatever kind of business you're doing, or even just to enjoy in your house, in your home. And where some people are being made, you're giving them some cutthroat billings where they are not even getting adequate supply, and they know that these operators, they just know that nothing can be done to them. They are not being taken to court and all that. And the regulators as well, no one has taken them to court to say this is what has happened. And like Chooks noted, it's high time that Nigerian consumers begin to band together, because one single consumer may not be able to go through the legal process, and that is where they've been having it easy. But consumers need to come together and fight this as one body.
Yes, our time is up. They're already signaling us to leave the studio. Well, viewers, as well, we call it a day on today's Energy Focus on the Morning Radio. And with me in the studio has been Inse. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing more of you. Well, our topic has been sustaining federal government's metering plan to end arbitrary billing. Let's keep the conversations going on our social media handles. I remain Winifred Webo. I look forward to seeing you at the same time next week. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.